Paul wrote to the Christians in the city of Galatia. Now before faith came, we were held captive under the law, imprisoned until the coming faith would be revealed. So then, the law was our guardian until Christ came, in order that we might be justified by faith. But now that faith has come, we are no longer under a guardian. For in Christ Jesus you are all sons of God through faith. For as many of you as were baptized into Christ have put on Christ. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free, there is no male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. And if you are Christ's, then you are Abraham's offspring, heirs according to the promise. So Paul begins this passage with reference to, we would, in modern dialogue, we'd contrast an approach of faith versus works. But we need to be careful about using those terms. The tendency for many people is to revert to like a 16th century Protestant Reformation type of approach, mental thoughts about what these terms mean. But to do so is to impose on the text something that is 1,500 years too late. So we need to remember that when Paul was writing this, he was writing as a Jew. He was a Pharisee. He really, really understood the text, what the lifestyle was like for the people of God, and that's the framework that he is writing from and thinking from and speaking from. So he talks about when faith came. So he is appealing to the transition that took place between prior to the incarnation. The people of God lived under the Old Covenant law, the Mosaic law, and had their set of rules to follow. And there was a lot of different ideas about what that was supposed to look like, depending on what sect or group you followed. Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, whoever. So Paul refers to the transition out of that into the new covenant when Christ began his ministry, when he died, when he rose from the dead, and when he ascended. So things radically changed. So Paul puts a big emphasis on this idea of, under the old covenant, you had these rules to follow. But with the coming of Christ, with the coming of the Messiah, now we are no longer like children under rules imposed by those in authority over us. We are responsible to live by faith. We are to embrace Christ as the Messiah. We are to be responsible and learn how to apply everything we think, speak, and do by a framework of love. So that is supposed to take place within the context of faith. So during the Old Covenant, as Paul says, the people of God lived as if under a guardian, which means that there was no actual responsibility for the people of God. They simply had to follow the rules, the written law, in order to be faithful. But as Paul says, now under faith that has come, we are no longer under a guardian, for in Christ you are all sons of God through faith. So with the incarnation, all of that old covenant thinking, approach, behavior has been made obsolete. It's not something we should be looking back to. We shouldn't be looking to the Old Testament for learning how to live. We should be mature, responsible adults and learn how to love everybody in a way that is glorifying to God. And then he closes out this passage with a really, really big deal within the Old Covenant was you were either a Jew or you were not a Jew. So Paul goes on to say that now, under the New Covenant, all of that has gone away. Mankind is mankind. There is no Jew or Greek. There is no male or female. There is no more slave or free. All those who embrace Christ and who are baptized into the church, the people of God, they are one. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is, what your gender is. It doesn't matter where you live, what ethnicity you are. All those things are irrelevant. What is important is the acknowledgement of and the embracing of Jesus as the Messiah. So, and he closes with, if you are Christ's, then you are Abraham's offspring, heirs according to the promise, which puts an even finer point on this idea of Jew versus Gentile. So those who are the people of God are the descendants of Abraham, not in the genealogical sense, but in the true sense of acting by faith. They are recognizing, acknowledging what God has done through Christ to restore mankind, to bring him back to a place where he has the responsibility and the freedom to act as a loving neighbor towards God, towards everyone.